Welcome to Quiz Time, where we have 100 questions about the silent generation. I'm Sean, I'll be your host today, and let's test your brain. What event is often considered a defining moment for the silent generation? The Civil Rights Movement, the Great Depression, or World War II? The defining moment is the Great Depression. Which musician and songwriter was influential during the silent generation's coming of age? Was it Chuck Berry, Bob Dylan, or Bill Haley? It was Chuck Berry. The second Red Scare is related to what? The rise of the counterculture, the Civil Rights Movement, or anti-communist sentiment? It was anti-communist sentiment. In which historical period were most members of the silent generation born? The 1950s and 60s, the 1920s and 1930s, or the 1940s and 1950s? It was the 1920s and 1930s. Which of the following figures doesn't belong to the silent generation? Meryl Streep, Joe Biden, or Elvis Presley? Meryl Streep does not belong to the silent generation. Who was the iconic movie star known as Bogey during the silent generation era? Was that James Dean, Humphrey Bogart, or Steve McQueen? That would be Humphrey Bogart. Bogey. True or false? The silent generation is nicknamed the latchkey generation. Is that true or is that false? That would be false. Gen X would be the latchkey generation. In which year were the last members of the silent generation born? 1946, 1945, or 1944? The last year was 1945. Who was born in 1940 and received the 1987 Nobel Prize in Literature? Eugene O'Neill, Toni Morrison, or Joseph Brodsky? That would be Joseph Brodsky. The silent generation includes famous figures, including which known leader of the Civil Rights Movement? Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., or James Farmer? That would be Martin Luther King Jr. Why was Bob Smith absent from the Howdy Doody show in September 1954? Was it a conflict with producers, a vacation for marriage, or was it a heart attack? Yeah, it was a heart attack. Who is the author of the novel On the Road? Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, or William S. Burroughs? That would be Jack Kerouac. Which of the following is not another name for the silent generation? The Greatest Generation, Radio Babies, or Traditionalists? Also known as the Greatest Generation. This is not multiple choice. What was the official name of the first handset telephone from the 1930s? The official name was the round base rotary dial monophone. What were the severe dust storms of the Dust Bowl era often referred to as? Dust devils, black blizzards, or haboobs? They were the black blizzards. The McCarthy era got its name from whom? Senator Joseph McCarthy, critic Mary McCarthy, or scientist John McCarthy? That would be Senator Joseph McCarthy. Which issue, considered controversial in the 1930s, was the centerpiece of the film Borderline? Prohibition, women's suffrage, or interracial relationships? Yeah, that was about interracial relationships. True or false? The period lasting roughly from 1930 through the 1940s is considered the golden age of American radio. Is that true or false? That would be true. That was the golden age of American radio. What was the first Silly Symphonies short film? The Skeleton Dance, the Band Concert, or the Ugly Duckling? And I think I've seen this one. It would be the Skeleton Dance. Which iconic American event in 1955 was pivotal in the civil rights movement? The Montgomery bus boycott, the Little Rock Nine, or the Selma to Montgomery marches? That would be the Montgomery bus boycott. The silent generation experienced the rise of what musical genres? Blues and jazz, soul and doo-wop, or big band and swing? It is big band and swing. Which historic event is humorously examined in the 1935 film Happiness? The Great Depression, the Russian Revolution, or the sinking of the Lusitania? The Russian Revolution. Not a multiple choice. What other name was given to movies with sound in the mid to late 1920s? Oh, I know this one. They were called talkies or talking pictures. In what decade did the silent generation's members typically begin to retire? The 1990s, the 2000s, or the 1970s? That would be the 1990s. Where did the St. Valentine's Day Massacre happen in 1929? Was it Los Angeles? Was it New York? Or was it Chicago? It was in Chicago. What was Germany called between November 9th, 1918 and March 23rd, 1933? The German Republic, the Weimar Republic, or the German Federation? It was the Weimar Republic. Who was the Japanese emperor during World War II? Emperor Hirohito, Emperor Heisei, or Emperor Taisho? It was Emperor Hirohito. True or false? The silent generation is mainly thrifty, respectful, loyal, and determined. Is that true or is that false? Oh, of course, that's my grandfather's generation. Of course that's true. What was the first worldwide intergovernmental organization aiming to maintain world peace? Was it the United Nations? Was it the League of Nations? Or was it NATO? Who came first? Of course, it was the League of Nations. Which novel portrays the struggles of the Joad family during the Dust Bowl era and the Great Depression? The Grapes of Wrath, The Four Winds, or 1,000 Acres? That's a famous one, The Grapes of Wrath. What type of bridge is the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco that was completed in 1937? Cable-stayed bridge, beam bridge, or suspension bridge? That is a suspension bridge. Who wrote the memoir Night? Elie Wiesel, Anne Frank, or Maya Angelou? That was written by Elie Wiesel. What does carry a torch signify in colloquial terms? To go on a long journey, to love someone, to have an issue with someone. If I'm carrying a torch for someone, that means I love someone. Which of these movies featured Charlie Chaplin? City lights, safety last, our hospitality. And that's city lights. Which of these wars took place from 1936 to 1939? The Korean War, the Crimean War, the Spanish Civil War? And that would be the Spanish Civil War. Who sang That'll Be the Day on the Ed Sullivan Show? The Beatles, Buddy Holly and the Crickets, or Roy Orbison? That would be Buddy Holly and the Crickets. What was October 24th, 1929 called in relation to the stock market crash? The nickname for that date would be Black Thursday. Which of the following passed away in 1929? Walter Abbott, Edgar Wallace, or Gene Eagles? That would be Gene Eagles, who passed away in 1929. What does bum rap mean? False accusations, a music genre, or the conclusion? If you've gotten a bum rap, that means you've been falsely accused. Which labs created the first electrical color television system? RCA Laboratories, IBM Laboratories, or Bell Labs? Who did it first? It was RCA Laboratories. In what decade was the Cadillac Series 62 first introduced by Cadillac? Was it the 1930s, the 1940s, or the 1950s? That was the 1940s. What historical period and setting does I, Claudius primarily explore? Ancient Greece, the Roman Empire, or Renaissance Italy? I, Claudius was the Roman Empire. True or false? The silent generation was called so because their period was full of hard times, the presence of silent movies, and the radio versus television. True or false? False, because they are conforming and civic-minded generation. Who was responsible for the construction of the 45-foot-tall Coaster Boy statue at the Century of Progress World's Fair? Antonio Passon, the Chicago government, or Emil Gagnon? That was Antonio Passon. To how many hours did the child labor reform measures of the 1920s in the U.S. limit children's work? To 6 hours, 9 hours, or 8 hours? They were limited to working 8 hours. When was Tolkien's The Hobbit published? The 1930s, the 1940s, or the 1950s? The Hobbit was published in the 1930s. Not a multiple choice. Since when has segregation been outlawed nationally in the United States? Since when? Since 1964. How many of the original Mercury 7 U.S. astronauts were members of the silent generation? 4, 3, or just 2? 3 of them were members of the silent generation. Which of these sandwiches became popular during the Great Depression? The grilled cheese sandwich, the Reuben, or the PB&J? Peanut butter. That would be the grilled cheese sandwich. Also a fine choice. How many Nancy Drew Mysteries books are there? 448 titles? About 563, or over 600? There are over 600 Nancy Drew Mysteries out there. Which of the following was James Beard's first cookbook? The Fanny Farmer Cookbook, the hors d'oeuvre and canopies, the joy of cooking. That would be hors d'oeuvres and canopies. Canops? Which company introduced the first mass-produced transistor radio to the markets? 1. Sony, 2. RCA, or 3. Zenith? That would be Sony. Where in the U.S. was Elvis Presley born? Was it Nashville, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, or Tupelo, Mississippi? Thank you very much. That was Tupelo, Mississippi. What was the format of the radio and television music program, Your Hit Parade? Music talk show, top tunes, or music medley? That would be top tunes. Who is the author of the well-known comic strip Little Orphan Annie? E.C. Seeger, Charles M. Schulz, or Harold Gray? Harold Gray was the well-known comic strip author. What is the name of the dog that accompanies Little Orphan Annie on her adventures? Was that Sandy, Snoopy, or Odie? That dog was named Sandy. True or false? The silent generation reached maturity as early as 1946 and as late as 1963. Is that true or is that false? That would be true. Maturity. Have I reached it yet? Amongst the following, who co-directed the 1937 movie Parabola with Ted Nemeth? Frank Capra, Mary Ellen Boot, or Orson Welles? That would be Mary Ellen Boot. Which U.S. president enacted the New Deal programs? Harry S. Truman, Franklin D. Roosevelt, or Dwight D. Eisenhower? Of course, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. What was the name of men's suits featuring high-waisted, wide-legged trousers? Peplum suits, zoot suits, or trench suits? Those would be zoot suits. When the BBC resumed broadcasting after World War II, who said, "Good afternoon, everybody. How are you? Do you remember me?" Bruce Belfridge, Rachel Bland, or Jasmine Bligh? Jasmine Bligh. When was Billie Holiday the most successful and reached her career peak? Between 1938 and 1951, between 1936 and 1942, or 1946 and 1958? That would be between 1938 and 1951. Which baseball player is known for breaking the color barrier in Major League Baseball? Willie Mays, Jackie Robinson, or Mickey Mantle? Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in Major League Baseball. When did the Pearl Harbor attack take place? When did that day of infamy take place? That was in 1941. Which of the following processed foods doesn't belong to the 1950s? Snicker bars, Cheez Whiz, or Tang? The Snicker bar does not belong to the 1950s. Which American philosopher pioneered progressivism at his laboratory school? William James, John Dewey, or Jean Piaget? That would be John Dewey. What was John Grierson's Drifters? A song, a novel, or was that a documentary film? John Grierson's Drifters was a documentary film. True or false? In 1937, New York schools used the radio for instruction during the polio outbreak. Is that true or is that false? That would be false. That would be the Chicago schools. Which of the following is one of the Flamingo songs? I only have eyes for you. In the still of the night, let the good times roll. I only have eyes for you. Which event was also known as the September Campaign, the Russian Revolution, the invasion of Poland, or the North African Campaign? That would be the invasion of Poland. Who played the role of Mary Poppins in the musical fantasy film of the same name? Glynis Johns, Karen Daughtris, or Julie Andrews? Oh yes, Mary Poppins was played by Julie Andrews. In what U.S. state does much of the autobiography I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings takes place? Georgia, Louisiana, or Arkansas? Arkansas. What was agitprop? A political strategy, agitation propaganda, a style of abstract art? And that would be agitation propaganda. Agitprop. Where was the movie I Was Born But produced? Japan, United States, or Germany? That was produced in Japan. The National Youth Administration provided work and education for people from which range? From 14 to 26, 16 to 25 years of age, or 16 to 30 years of age? That was for 16 to 25-year-olds. Which of the following means eyeglasses in slang? Cheaters, kicks, or wheels? Got my cheaters on. It's cheaters. Which of these fast food franchises was founded by a person from the silent generation? Wendy's, Domino's Pizza, or both of them? They were both founded by a person from the silent generation. True or false? All the Little Rock 9 students belong to the silent generation. Is that true or is that false? And that would be true. What event marked the official end of World War II in Europe? VE Day, the Battle of Stalingrad, the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. In Europe, VE Day. Who said the greatest generation was formed first by the Great Depression? They shared everything, meals, jobs, and clothing. Tom Brokaw, Joan Didion, or Tommy Tuberville? And Tom Brokaw said that. Which of these genres is not correct about the novel Rebecca? Gothic fiction, adventure fiction, or romance? Adventure fiction. Who is Eric Fischel? An athlete, a chef, a painter and sculptor? He is a painter and sculptor. What was used to buy utility clothing and uniforms during the 1940s? Service dollars, ration coupons, or fabric stamps? Ration coupons were used to buy utility clothing. To which movie does the quote, "The mediator between the head and the hands must be the heart," belong? Metropolis, Blade Runner, or The Wizard of Oz? That would be 1, Metropolis. The Galloping Ghost was a nickname for which legendary American football player? Johnny Unitas, Red Grange, or Jim Brown? That would be a nickname for Red Grange. Who was Francisco Franco, a Spanish dictator, an Italian composer, or a Mexican revolutionary? Franco was a Spanish dictator. Which year marked the start of World War II? Not a multiple choice this time. World War II began in the year 1939. Which of the following movies doesn't belong in the 1940s? Casablanca, Gone with the Wind, or The Wizard of Oz? That would be The Wizard of Oz. Which of the following is not among the original colors of M&M's? Violet, blue, or brown? Not among the original colors. Blue was not among the original colors. Now you know. Little Orphan Annie inspired which well-known Broadway musical? Annie, Oliver, or The Music Man? Little Orphan Annie inspired Annie. Who first recorded 3 O'Clock Blues? B.B. King, Lowell Fulson, or Little Richard? That would be Lowell Fulson. In 1940, what was often used to stretch the bologna casserole dish and add bulk without extra cost? Vegetables, premium cuts of meat, rice or pasta? Rice or pasta? True or false? The percentage of silent generation members with high school diplomas is higher than that of baby boomers. Is that true or is that false? That's true. What 1938 agreement allowed Nazi Germany to annex part of Czechoslovakia? The Treaty of Versailles, the Munich Agreement, or the Yalta Conference? That would be the Munich Agreement. Which of the following athletes is not a member of the silent generation? Bill Russell, Carl Yastrzemski, or Ted Williams? That would be Ted Williams. Which company produced the 1934 film La Joie de Vivre? Paramount Pictures, HG Productions, RKO Pictures? Joie de Vivre, HG Productions. CCC is an acronym for which Roosevelt New Deal agency? The Civilian Conservation Corps, the Civilian Construction Corps, or the Civilian Commission Corps? The CCC's was the Civilian Conservation Corps. Not a multiple choice. Who was the Chancellor of Germany starting in 1933? The Chancellor. Oh yeah. That would be Adolf Hitler. Who is often referred to as the King of Swing? Glenn Miller, Benny Goodman, or Duke Ellington? The King of Swing is Benny Goodman. Question 100. How many years did Joe Louis hold the World Heavyweight title? 12 years, 11 years, or did he hold it for 9 years? Joe Louis held it for 12 years. Drop your score in the comments, please. Don't forget to subscribe, ring that notification bell, and give us a like. Thanks for playing Quiz Time. We'll catch you on the next one.